building, on the east side of the building, that was propped up against the glass. That has now moved away. We're not sure where that unit has gone to, where that scaffolding unit is being used. But now what we're seeing is a scaffolding unit on the south side of the building working its way down. He is on a southeast corner of the building working his way up. So they're trying to maybe meet somewhere in between. Down on the ground, 2 inflatables, one directly beneath him, which is where there's like a terrace landing type of area, then one directly in front of Trump Tower, right in front of the entrance here on 56th Street. That is, of course, for the worst case scenario, in case he happens to fall down. But it does not look like that will happen anytime soon. It looks like he knows exactly what he's doing as he calmly works his way up the building. There's also a police chopper, it seems, right above the area, trying to get to him that way. We know that they've been communicating with him through the windows, through a vent, through some panels they've knocked out, trying to talk some sense into him, but that has not worked. Down here on the ground, the buildings on 56th Street are all blocked off. No one is being allowed outside. I can even tell you some of the buildings on 5th Avenue that have balconies and such, we're seeing people just climb on those balconies to get a good look and to get a peek at what's going on. On the corner of Madison and 56th, as well as 5th and 56th, it is full of people just watching this unfold. Traffic is moving on those avenues, but not on 56th Street because it's blocked off as police try to talk to him. We know they're not going to try to extricate him. They're not going to try to forcibly grab him off the building. Instead, what they're doing is they're communicating with him. They're negotiating with him, as Jonathan Deans pointed out. They're trying to get him to come to his senses and come inside the building. And for that reason, they've knocked out the glass of a window a few flights beneath him. And I actually see police peeking out of that window they knocked out, looking at what he's doing, which is working his way up that corner, up that southeast part of the building, working his way up that building. The scaffolding unit up above is slowly working its way down as they try to get him into the building. As far as the people inside, we haven't heard anything about that, but we imagine that the building has been secured and trying to get people to stay inside. But we don't know what's in his backpack either. You can see there's a backpack on his back. We don't know what's in that. We don't know what it says on his hat. In fact, a source I was just talking to said, I wonder what his hat says. They're trying to get any sort of message from him as to why he's doing this, aside from showing Trump or trying to get Trump's attention. It's unclear what his end game is if he's going to climb to the top of the building or what. But from what it seems like right now, he's just climbing up that building effortlessly. It seems like he's done this before. It doesn't look like this is the first time he's doing this. Again, that scaffolding unit suspended at least 24 flights up from where he's standing, from where he's affixed to the side of the building. So it looks like that scaffolding will slowly work its way down as police talk to him through the windows.
All right, Ray, we think we have a picture now of him from the inside. There it is. All right, social media, so you get a good look at his face. This man being dubbed Steve by emergency service officers on the scene there, apparently because that's what he told them his name was, from Virginia, Sabila. So as we understand it right now, scaling because he wants Donald Trump to see him. So now all of us are seeing his face as he makes this, what would seem to us, a precarious climb, though he seems to be calm and seems to have this equipment for it.
All right, and we want to get Sal Lafreri on the phone. He is the former director of the Office of Emergency Management. He's joining us right now. Thanks so much for joining us. What is your reaction to what's happening right now?
Well, obviously it's causing a lot of disturbance in the city with traffic, and it's eating up a tremendous amount of resources. Obviously, motivation of this individual is something that everyone is interested in. And it's something that we probably won't find out until he comes off the building.
Experiences in emergency management, and we just saw you on our air yesterday talking about the Queens jogger with Ida Siegel, but you had extensive experience several decades or years ago. Take us through the protocols here of how much this ties up and what we just see a picture here and some officers standing by, but take us through the layers of response.
Well, obviously, you have the first, working from the way out, from the outside in, you have the traffic issues that you have to be, considerate of. The big part of the problem that you have with traffic is that starts to slow down the other responses. You have other things going on, other emergencies in the city. You have fire situations, ambulance responses. So At the coordination center, they'll be looking at what those impacts are and trying to deploy resources to try and clear the traffic as best as possible. When you get to the scene, you have a situation where this doesn't appear to be anything more of a terrorism nature or anything along those lines. So there probably won't be a need to have to evacuate the building, but understanding how many people are in the building, what you would need to be able to get that amount of people out would be something that would be problematic and you'd have to pay attention to. And then you have the resources at the building that need to be supported. And from the law enforcement side, you have the officers from emergency service that are on site dealing with him and talking to him. You have an intelligence operation in the background trying to figure out who is he, what's his motivation. You may have someone trying to reach out to either family or friends. They'd be looking at social media postings, again, looking towards motivations. And then you have, obviously, a standby operation for emergency medical services so that if something was to occur, if he was to slip and fall or if something bad happened and you wind up with casualties, you're able to treat that. So there are a number of things that are going on simultaneous with this.
And talk about the danger there. He doesn't seem to pose a danger to many people, but certainly a danger to himself. We were talking about inflatables at some point. Ray Vietta's on the ground right now. He says that there were some inflatables set up, but from where he's at, you're talking about maybe 19 stories high or 19 floors up. There's not much that can help.
At that particular height, there's not. And the standard protocol would be that you would try and get an airbag deployed under him. Depending on where he goes on the building, there are some surface nets that could have been deployed. But again, you have the things that you have to consider in that is, can you get to the windows? Can you get them open? How can you get them safely erected to be able to get under him? So it's one of those situations that'll just keep changing minute by minute. At some point, you hope he gets tired and wants to come in. The last thing they want to do is deploy officers out on ropes and endanger the life of the officers and trying to make an apprehension off the side of the building. At this point in time, if you clear everyone under him out, the only person in danger of hurting himself would be him.
Sal, can I ask you, correct me if I'm wrong, you were a member of the hostage negotiation team, and this isn't quite that, but in terms of engaging someone in this kind of situation, is there a point where you conclude, like, you know what, talking to him is not going to work anymore, and so then you kind of step back and do what you're doing, or are they going to try to keep engaging him at different heights here?
They'll try and keep engaging him, and, again, we're sort of trying to figure out what's going on. The officers at the scene that are talking to him are having, obviously, a dialogue back and forth. And, again, we don't know the specifics of what those conversations are. Traditionally, the hostage negotiation team would be deployed for, obviously, hostage situations, also barricades, but also were deployed for emotionally disturbed persons. This guy may wind up fitting somewhere in between all of those. He may wind up being someone potentially with a psychological disorder, or this may be for a political impact, or it may be someone who's just part of what we're seeing today is the groups that like to climb buildings and like to go out and climb construction sites. So until we get a better handle on what he's saying and what his motivation is, will be the determination as to how they're going to handle him.
Yeah, you said that sometimes authorities will just wait to see if he'll tire out. Has that been your experience? Do you see that sometimes happens with a person like this, a daredevil?
At some point, obviously, he's going to get tired. He really has nowhere to go. From watching it for the last hour or so, it doesn't appear, at least just from watching remotely, that he's got any suicide tendencies, that he wants to get to a height to jump or let himself go. So at some point, he'll recognize that, his statement has been made. And that might be that he's looking to, A, get the attention, B, he's in prime time, which is, sort of important. It's rush hour. He's getting to cause a lot of problems. And it's, probably around 6 o'clock when rush hour is over, he may decide that, it's time to come in.
At this point, it doesn't look like they have any kind of lines of communication with him.
They had, I'm actually in the vehicle, so I'm not watching the monitors, but they had an opportunity to talk to him as he was coming up. They had the window washing rig got lowered. They were able to, there was at least a capability or possible capability to talk to him and engage him. They had the window that was broken. They engaged, you saw them engaging him through there. You saw them engaging him through the vent. You had the officers that were on the rooftop on that ladder. So there's been multiple opportunities to have a conversation with him. And again, from experience, I can tell you that a lot of times what you're thinking on the ground is totally different, vastly different than what's actually happening at the site.
All right, Sal LaFerrari, former director of the Office of Emergency Management and also a former member of the elite hostage negotiating team for the NYPD. Thank you, Sal. We've been watching this play out for the last hour of our newscast, and we're going to change gears here. Chuck and Natalie are going to come in. This has been playing out since about 3:50. A man climbing Trump Towers, any number of high rises to choose from, but this one having added dimension because Donald Trump, a candidate for President of the United States. He is not here in New York. He is on the campaign trail in North Carolina. But from our Jonathan Dietz reporting, according to officers on the scene there who were talking to this man who calls himself Steve from Virginia, he wanted to do this so Donald Trump would see him. So obviously getting a lot of coverage now. Police in kind of a cat and mouse game and waiting game as he continues to scale. He's made it up a number of stories since we've been watching, and Ray Vietta's been covering it from the ground, right?
He's almost a third of the way up. That doesn't look a third of the way up.
And David, what we're seeing right now is that the scaffolding unit has actually worked its way down much closer to where he is now. Keep in mind, when we first started seeing this unfold, he was roughly around the 16th floor. He's climbed since then to possibly the 20th floor. And now we're seeing a window washing scaffolding unit come alongside the building on the south side. He's on the southeast corner of the building, and there's a scaffolding unit working its way down on the south side of the building, and you can see it's closing in on him, and he's continuing to work his way up to eventually be in that area on the same floor as the scaffolding unit. We saw what looked like a couple of minutes ago that they were trying to break out another window in that same area where he is, but it looks like those efforts have since stopped, and instead police are working that scaffolding unit trying to get to him that way. We know we saw police looking out through a window a few floors beneath him, talking to him that way, trying to talk to him through that window, and instead he's just continuing to climb on up. But in the last few minutes, there we go, I'm seeing another window shake up above him, probably 4 flights up. So that might still be a possibility. We know police have tried that before. They've tried to break a window on the 16th floor to get to him that way. Yeah, we're seeing a window that's about to come out right now, a few flights up above him. It's right up above the scaffolding, maybe another two flights up above the scaffolding. So they're going to try to get to him that way. So in a minute or so, you're going to see some glass come flying down alongside the building. And the reason we know that is because we're seeing the window shaking. We're seeing what looks like someone pounding out that window, pounding out that glass, like we saw them do earlier this afternoon on the 16th floor. They did that. We saw glass come falling down on the side of the building. They laid out towels to get him in through that window. It looked like at points he was working his way in towards that area, and instead he moved away from it and is continuing to climb up. It looks like that window, they stopped pounding it because we're not seeing it move. But again, we're also seeing a window washing scaffolding unit on the side of the building closing in as well, trying to get to him that way. There was also a scaffolding unit on the most east side of the building, and that has since moved, so it's not sure if that's going to come into play again. We know police have been trying to talk to him through a window, through a vent, and have not made any progress because he continues to work his way up. We've been seeing some windows shake, and not from his suction cups, so that might be a possibility that we see another window come crashing down as they try to get to him that way. As far as the street below, it has been blocked off to all traffic on 56th between 5th and Madison. We know some people are still there, packed on the corners, trying to get a glimpse of all of this. As far as the buildings that are on this street, they are all blocked off. People are not being allowed to come outside right now as this all unfolds. As we've originally said, the call came in around 3:40 this afternoon to get to this man who was climbing up alongside Trump Tower using suction cups. Since then, police have made numerous efforts to get to him, breaking out a window, breaking out some panels of a vent. They've also laid out 2 inflatables, one directly beneath him, which is a landing terrace area, and I've actually seen some officers there in that area as well, standing there, trying to get a glimpse at him. And what we're seeing now, again, is him making his way up, and there's a window scaffolding unit right nearby trying to get to him that way. Chuck, Natalie?
All right, thank you very much. Chuck Scarborough here, along with Natalie Pascarella, and we've been watching along with you, watching this rather extraordinary event unfolding in Midtown all afternoon here since about 3:15, with this young man climbing the building, Natalie, and heading up now probably toward the 18th floor. Ray, is that right? Is he about 18 floors up? You still with us, Ray?
Yeah, I would say he's probably closer to 20 because
20 now.
what...
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still there. Can you hear me? It's
Yep.
probably 16th floor. So yeah, it's probably 20 because when we first saw him, it was on the 16th floor. And as an indicator, you can see the blue and green towels where police are peeking their head out of. That is the 16th floor. So if you just look at the glass below, above him rather, you could see that it's probably floor 19 or 20 at this point as he continues to work his way up. At one point, we saw police trying to knock out a window almost directly above him. It looks like since that they've stopped, and now they're trying to talk to him through that scaffolding unit that you see almost directly alongside the building, right alongside the south side of the building. That scaffolding unit has worked its way down. There we go. We're seeing that he is climbing up. Every time that he climbs up another flight up, you can see the windows bang with his suction cups. And so he's continuing to work his way up calmly. And it looks like he's done this before because he has not made any effort or any indication rather that he's struggling. He's just working his way up in what appears to be now the 20th floor of Trump Tower. Chuck, Natalie?
Yeah, and I know, Ray, as you've been watching, Chuck and I have been glued to the screen as well, along with everybody in the newsroom and all of our folks on our NBC New York Twitter page as well, interacting with us on social media, just watching all of this unfold. As you said, we're going on almost 3 hours now. A lot of people asking why. Why is he doing this? What's going on here? According to sources have told Jonathan Deans, he said he was Steve from Virginia. He says he wants Donald Trump to see him. So we're still trying to figure out the exact motive here, but as Ray has said, what his sources are telling him, Chuck, they don't want to go in and actually get him. They're hoping he'll get tired so that nobody gets hurt here.
And we've been watching him evade them very, very methodically and carefully. They, if you were here earlier, you saw they knocked out a window a couple of floors below where he's now. At the time, it was a couple of floors above him. They prepared a way for him to come off the glass and get through that window to come in with some blankets they threw out there, but he simply moved over a little bit, kept climbing and scaling the building heading up. We don't know what his ultimate ambition is, if he's going to the roof. If so, he's not quite a third of the way up yet, and this has been going on, as you said, for close to 3 hours now, coming up on 3 hours. So he's got quite a bit of climbing left to do if that's his ambition.
He doesn't seem that tired. We saw him, Chuck, talking. He was talking. He was talking with officers. He was talking with the investigators there on the scene. At one point, we saw him pull his bottled water out, take a drink. I mean, he seems pretty comfortable.
And what's also a little bit nerve-wracking here is that he's putting an awful lot of faith in the tensile strength of the glass and the way the glass is mounted in the frames. Those suction cups are the only thing holding him. Those are large suction cups. He's equipped, it seems, about 5 of them, deploying 4, and he has one additional one hanging behind him as a spare. But he is pumping them. He's creating a vacuum between the glass and the suction cup with that pumping action you see there. He has some straps attached to the cups, and he has a harness around his bottom side, as you can see there, and footholds with straps. And he is inch by inch, almost literally inch by inch, more likely almost foot by foot, making his way up the building, hand over hand on these suction cups attached only to the glass. So if anything happens with the glass, anything fails on the suction cup, it could be a disaster for him.
I know we've been touching base with Sal LaFriere, former OEM director. Sal, are you still with us here?
Still with you.
So for folks just joining us, just kind of explain all that goes into the emergency aspect of this. We're seeing the rescue crews there on the side, trying to talk to him, trying to get him to come toward their direction to have this end peacefully. We've got the inflatables there on the ground. You've got the crowds down below. We saw the images of people tweeting NBC New York, everybody watching with their phones up. Talk about just the huge operation this is.
Well, obviously it's a tremendous draw on resources. Fortunately, New York City has a large cadre of resources that we can deploy. Obviously the rest of the city is still going on. So when you start looking at a situation like this, the amount of traffic, you're shutting down cross streets on 56, 57 streets, so the impact to the surrounding areas becomes very great. You wind up influencing ambulance response. You wind up influencing the fire department response to their calls for service, and to the law enforcement community, their responses to other jobs that are coming in. And then locally, with that, at the facility itself, you have the emergency medical service on standby in the event that something tragic was to occur. You have the officers that are on site that are climbing and going up and trying to talk to him and trying to get him in. And then you have the fire department also standing by and assisting. And it's an incredible amount of resources that are being deployed that affect not only just the building but also the remainder of the city, and it does have an impact.
Assuming he gets down safely and is taken into custody.
Assuming he gets into, come off the building, I have faith in the first responders on site that they'd be able to bring this to a successful conclusion.
I guess my question is, I was quite clear there, but once they get him down, assuming they do, what sort of charges might he face?
Criminal trespass would definitely be one of the charges. It would, I guess right offhand, it would wind up being criminal trespass and then followed up by, possibly criminal mischief, depending on what he did. Potentially, again, depending on how he entered, how he got to the building, how we brought the equipment in, there may even be a charge of burglary that may be able to be attached.
Do we know if he just ascended from the street, Sal, or did he emerge from some setback inside and begin his ascent?
There was some original witnesses reporting that they had seen him up on within the confines of the building in a garden area that I'm not familiar with, but apparently was able to make his way up to one of the setbacks and then was able to start his ascent from there. So it didn't start, my understanding is it didn't start from the ground.
Okay. That changes my calculation, actually, because if you started in the setback, let's say 10 stories up, and there are several of them. If you look at the building, it sits at 56th and 5th Avenue, and there are a number of setbacks on the building, on the face of the building, and I'm trying to just visualize how far off the ground they are. If it's 10 stories or 12 stories up before they begin, that means he will not have scaled all of 20 stories down, but maybe half that number in 3 hours. Let's say 10 stories in 3 hours. So if his ambition is to scale the building, you're going to be able to watch this
we might be
most
here
of the
a while,
evening.
right? Well, Sal, we thank you very much.
If the judgment was that he was going to go to, try and go to the roof, this could take a long while. But if the initial reports, I think the reports from Jonathan was that what it appears to be is that he just wants Trump to see him and to get his attention. That might be something that in prime time he gets to understand that Trump is made aware of this, and he may wind up coming in off of that. That may wind up being one of the negotiations.
All right, well, thank you very much, Sal. We appreciate that. And since you mentioned Jonathan Deans, let's go back to him, because motive here is really one of the things we're trying to look at.
Yeah. The question, or several police sources we've spoken with now say the information they have is that Steve wanted to get Donald Trump's attention. He's calling himself Steve, whether that's his real name or an alias he's using, unclear. And that he wanted to get Donald Trump's attention, and that's why he decided to climb this tower. They're also looking into a video that's been posted on YouTube by a man who bears a resemblance of the man who is climbing this tower. And in that video, similar claims were made. I want to meet with Donald Trump. I have important information for him, and I'm going to climb the tower to try to get your attention. So unclear what that message is that he has. Police basically trying to make sure that things are safe and secure, and they're basically going to try to safely bring him in, but safely being the key operative word that the emergency service workers are operating under.
And Jonathan, we thank you so much. While you're talking about this, Chuck and I have been watching here. We are seeing a window's been taken out there, and you're seeing the rescue workers there. It looks like speaking to him as he makes his way up. What would you say, Chuck? About 4 floors up there. Looks like they're trying once again to make contact with him. Before, as you mentioned, Chuck, we saw the windows maybe about 5-6 stories below. The windows broken out. They threw the blankets out, hoping they could get through to him and they could pull him through, but that didn't happen. Maybe this time.
I think they learned the lesson on that one, because when they broke the window out a little farther below, a piece of glass came plummeting down and very nearly hit him. So I think what they've done above him now, which looks like about 3 or 4 stories up, is extracted this pane of glass and brought it into the building. They didn't break it and have it fall down, but they're waiting up there. They have around to the left-hand side, they have the window washer scaffold. You can see that. That's kind of trapped from going around that corner. The problem is, I'm not seeing anybody heading him off to the right, unless we're looking at an open space on the right-hand side up there, because what he's done in the past is just evade, slowly, bit by bit, inch by inch, evade any attempt to bring him in. So it's obvious now that the police emergency rescue units are trying to corner him, trap him, so that he has no choice but to come in through one of the openings there. He can't go to the left right now, he can't go up right now, but he can go to the right.
I'll be interested to hear about his background, because he just doesn't seem that tired to me, and he is keeping moving there. I want to get back to Ray Vieta. This has developed here, I'd say just in the past 5 minutes. We're noticing crews looking down at him. Ray, what are you seeing right now? Do you think they could get to him here?
Natalie, we've learned from police on the ground that is the 21st floor where that window has been taken from. So you can see they are directly talking to him, making communication with him, looking out that window. What we've seen differently, as Chuck mentioned, from their last attempt was, instead of breaking that window up above and having glass come shattering down alongside him, this time they've taken the window out from inside. So we saw that when we were live on the air. We saw that window shaking, and that's why, because they were trying to get it out, trying to get that glass out to try to get to him that way. There's a scaffolding unit on the south side of the building, almost right alongside where he is. That has not moved since. It hasn't moved up at all or down at all to get to him. But we're also seeing on the right side of him, if you're looking at him to his right, there's a window shaking on that side as well. So it looks like they might be trying to take a window from that side of the building out as well, as he continues to work his way up. So they are trying to corner him, it seems, from both sides of where he's at right now. They're directly above him. They've taken the window out, which is the 21st floor. And then there's a window almost alongside him that it looks like is being shaken right now. That might be another avenue as they try to get to this man. But as Natalie mentioned, he has not slowed down at all as he worked his way up. This started around 3:40 this afternoon. And do you hear that?
What are they cheering for? What are you hearing there?
That's people cheering on 56. They're cheering on 56 and Madison. Every time that we see any movement here, for example, when that window came out, we heard cheers from the corner of 56th and Madison. So people are cheering as these events unfold here on 56th Street, because of course right now it's blocked off on both sides. There's no traffic coming through on 56th between Madison and 5th Avenue. There's another window that's open on that 21st floor in that corner. That glass has been removed, and you can see right now both windows on that floor around him, directly above him, are now gone. That glass has been removed from that window, so they are trying to corner him that way. And it looks like he is still working his way up. So there's a possibility that they might get to him that way, because they've blocked out, and you can see they're talking amongst each other. It's unclear if they're talking to him, but we are seeing a lot more movement now as they've knocked out 2 windows, not just one, on the 21st floor directly above him. Keep in mind, when we first saw this unfold, he was around the 16th floor, and now he's worked his way up and continues to work his way up. But it looks like what he might do, and what he's been doing in the past, is moving around the building. when we first saw him, he was on the east side of the building. Then he moved into this corner that you see him in right now. And then there's a scaffolding on the south side of the building. So it looks like he's trying to evade whatever progress and whatever way police try to get to him. He completely tries to navigate around and work his way around the corners of the building, which we see instead now. He's not trying to climb up anymore. Instead, it looks like he's putting his suction cups to the right and left, and might even look at coming down, because it looks like he's trying to avoid police. But there we go. We see him suctioning to the side of the building. Whereas before, it looked like he was working his way up that corner, up that side of the building, and now it looks like he's trying to move in a sideways direction instead of moving up towards where police are. You can see police are motioning to him and telling him about the scaffolding on the side of the building. I just saw someone with the ESU pointing in the direction of the scaffolding, telling him that there was someone on that side, because we see there's a scaffolding unit on the side of the window, on the side of the building. We know police are there as well. They're trying to get to him that way. That's been one of the many ways that they've tried to get to him. They've tried to get to him via scaffolding, with where you usually see window washers. They've broken out panels of a vent, and now they've broken out windows. And now what we're looking at is on the 21st floor, they've broken out 2 windows as they try to get to this man climbing up Trump Tower. And it looks like instead of climbing up, he's now climbing sideways. Unclear if he knows that there's scaffolding on that side, but it looks like police tried to tell him that there is scaffolding there. So really, they're trying to corner him and trying to get him into a safe spot. What's going on beneath him is there is a rescue inflatable directly on a terrace landing area right beneath him, and then right on the ground, there's another rescue inflatable on the ground in front of the entrance on 56th Street. So they are trying to make this as safe as possible for this man and trying to get him into the building, and that's what we're watching unfold this evening. Natalie, Chuck?
All right, Ray. We're going to try to show you a video here, but Leland, I'm talking to my producer for just a second here, but Leland, can we do this in a box so that we can keep an eye? Okay, great. Let's show this YouTube video we have. It appears to be the climber, and it's actually has some audio from him, a YouTube video that he made.
Hello, Mr. Trump. To excuse my manner of appearance, I just don't know how many people will watch this, and I'd rather not be recognizable. I am an independent researcher seeking a private audience with you to discuss an important matter. I guarantee that it is in your interest to honor this request. Believe me, if my purpose was not significant, I would not risk my life pursuing it. The reason I climbed your tower was to get your attention. If I had sought this via conventional means, I would be much less likely to have success because you are a busy man with many responsibilities. I'll get my contact information to your campaign so that if you are interested, you can respond. As for anyone else who's watching, please help make this video go viral so that it gets to Mr. Trump, and be sure to get out and vote for Mr. Trump in the 2016 election.
Now, we do want to stress, Natalie, that we don't know for certain if that is him. It certainly sounds like this is the climber, but we cannot verify that. We have no verification. This fellow who says he's an independent researcher and simply wants to talk to Mr. Trump. That does comport with what Jonathan was told.
Yeah, and he said he climbed to get Mr. Trump's attention. Again, what Jonathan Dees telling us from his sources, that he is Steve from Virginia and says he wants Donald Trump to see him. Well, we can all see him right now. And as we saw when Ray was talking to us here, Chuck, we saw the 21st floor. They've got a huge window taken out there. They're all trying to speak to him. They've got him to the right, too. On the other side of him, he's basically cornered. But, Chuck, as we've been seeing here, really for the past almost 3 hours now, he just keeps moving to the left and right. He's not going anywhere near the windows.
No, he is evading. He's moving across now. He's heading to the left. They do have, right around the corner there, you can see just kind of the edge of it. There is that window washing scaffold that's just about a floor below him right there, and they are in a position to take him into custody there if he makes it around the corner. So what they're trying to do, obviously, is to pin him in so he can't go any higher, he can't go around that corner, and he can't cross to his right now and go around the other direction either, because they have some windows out over there ready to grab him. And this is something that has happened, this climbing of buildings in New York.
All the years you've been here, speak a little bit to that, what you've seen here, anything recently you remember.
There was a period of time when the New York Times building, back around 2008, there were climbers. In a matter of weeks, there were 3 people who tried to climb the building. That building was sort of built, designed to be climbed. They put a whole bunch of horizontal pieces on the exterior of the building, and it almost was screaming, "Climb me," and people began doing that, and they got a lot of attention. The most famous one, I remember, of all was a fellow named Philippe Petit. He was a Frenchman, and that was back in 1974. He and his Confederates got up on top of the World Trade Center towers, and they managed to string a cable between the North Tower and the South Tower, firing an arrow with a string on it or a wire on it and pulling a cable across and anchoring the cable. And Philippe Petit was a wire walker. And he walked back and forth while the entire town watched. In 1974, walked back and forth between the two towers. He did not seem to have any kind of a message that this man may have. Philippe Petit was simply a performer getting a lot of attention for himself. And in fact, I think last year there was a movie made called Man on a Wire about Philippe Petit, which this perhaps inspired this fellow climbing right now.
Yeah, sounds
that Philippe Petit got an awful lot of attention. Climbing buildings get you an awful lot of attention.
And we're talking about this attention, Chuck. You can see the crowds. You see the folks with their iPhones up. As Ray Vieta was talking, Ray's been here for the past few hours, and Ray's heard the cheers. Ray, what are you seeing right now? What can you tell us about kind of how the crowd's reacting there?
Fifth App. Get to this, man. So are the only people can gather to watch this unfold. Here's what we know right now. He is below the 21st floor, possibly on the 20th floor right now, working his way around the side of the building. What he'll eventually run into on that side of the building, on the south side, is a scaffolding washing unit. Been there for the last half hour possibly, and we know police have been working out of that unit as well, trying to get away. I've just learned from sources on the ground that they do have a victim harness unit ready for him in case they can use that, in case they get close enough to him. We know that there is a sizable police presence on the 21st floor, and that's where you see the windows have been knocked out of. What they did there on the 21st floor is take the glass out of the window from the inside. This way, glass came out, it didn't come crashing down on the floor. On the tried to get him then, they knocked the window out and it came crashing down, and instead of trying to go into that, worked his way around it and worked his way up. And that's what he continues to do right now. He is now possibly around the 20th floor, just judging by the glass and what the placement is of where police are. It looks like he might be on the 19th or 20th floor. Trying to get to him from the 21st floor. They have a unit alongside the building. They have two rescue inflatables down on the ground, one on a landing directly beneath him, and then one down in front of the entrance to Trump Tower on 56th Street. There is more police here on the ground. There are more officers on the ground, and I believe that's for crowd control. They just moved a bunch of us onto the sidewalk to clear the street out, and we know that they're monitoring the corners here at 56th and Madison and Fifth Avenue. So we're seeing more of a police presence, and we're seeing more of a police presence inside the building, because now we're seeing more officers from the ESU that window trying to get communication, motioning, basically telling him to go in that direction. It's unclear to them, because at this point he's been evading them this whole evening. But he is working his way toward the building. Something interesting we also saw, something fell down. Clear what that. Right now we can see him motioning. It's unclear what. Communicating with each other. They are negotiating with him, trying to get him into a safe spot. They're not him themselves. They are basically trying to talk to him for him to surrender himself safely, but they do have worst case scenarios in place as far as having those inflatables. We know they have several hundred feet of rope ready to come down alongside the building. We know they've knocked out some windows below as well as they try to get to him. On the 21st floor, I'm being told, is basically a mock command post where there's a bunch of officers there. They're trying to get to him that way. That's why they've knocked out not one but two windows on that corner, and instead he's moving to the side of the building where he's about to run into some scaffolding that has worked its way down along the south side of the building to get to him. So that's what we're watching unfold right now. As far as the buildings here on 56th Street, all of them have been closed off, so no one is coming in or out of those buildings right now, and the reason being because police have it all blocked off so that they can continue their operation to try to get to them. The crowds, of course, are watching with bated breath and taking pictures, and we're seeing the scaffolding guy there's something going on there with the officer in the scaffolding unit. trying to get to him there. There's some movement that we're seeing there, but it's unclear exactly what's going on between the two. It looks like he's trying to move as far as, it looks like the climber is trying to move, but it's unclear in what direction he's going to go in because he hasn't really been working with police trying to get any closer to them. If anything, he's been evading them this whole evening. So we're watching as he makes his way possibly around the corner, being on the south side of the building, and then that might get him closer into the scaffolding unit. So that's what we're watching unfold right now, Natalie and Chuck.
Now, Ray, from our perspective, it looks like he's having a conversation with the fellow in the window washing scaffold. He, however, just planted another suction cup above the one he put down before, so he may think he's found a way up past. When this is
The question is, will he try to turn the corner there closer, go up a little more, and then turn the corner there, just up above the guy? Well, we'll have to wait and see here as he goes more. We're talking about these suctions and how he's managed to do this, and Chuck and I talk about how it just seems that he's not that tired. Joining us on the phone as we watch this unfold here, yep, he's going to go up. He's going to go up. Is Grayson Schaefer, editor-at-large for Outside Magazine and a climbing expert. Grayson, can you hear us?
Yeah, can hear you just fine.
Talk a little bit about what he's wearing, what he's using, and really why he's not tired at this point. Speak to that.
Yeah, so it looks like he's got 4 suction cups, and he's using a style of climbing that is known in the climbing community as aid climbing, where he's always got at least 2 points of contact on the wall at any one point, and you can see he's wearing a climbing harness similar to the one that you would wear just at a climbing gym. That is attached at all times to, it looks like, at least 2 of those suction cups. It's probably not more. And so at any point when he gets tired, he can just sit down into his harness and he can rest. And the way that he's getting up the wall is he's attaching one suction cup to the wall, standing up into a webbing ladder, and then as you see that he's got a little mechanical ascension device clipped right to the edge of the, right to the top of between the suction cup and the webbing that allows him to take in that slack, and that will then hold his weight. So he's using all these sort of mechanical forces to help himself get up the wall without using a lot, without using his muscles. So he's able to stay on the wall almost indefinitely, basically. Are his enemies here not exhaustion?
Grayson, how safe is this stuff, this equipment? How safe is what he's doing right now?
It actually, despite it, looking like he's basically taken like GPS suction cups and sort of jury rigged it to get up the wall. It looks like he's actually got 4 points of contact, which is 2 more than you would actually need to get up the wall in this fashion. I mean, he could do this with 2 suction cups, but it looks like he's using 4 in order to have redundancy and extra safety. And it looks like also has a 5th suction cup strapped to his backpack that he could use if you were to have one of those 4 fail or lose one. So it seems like his personal safety. I think I would be more worried about him falling as a result of some altercation with law enforcement than I would with any of this equipment failing. In order for him to actually fall, all 4 of those suction cups would need to fail, and it appears as though any one of them is more than strong enough to hold his weight. And you can see as he steps up into one of those suction cups, and you can see also that he's taking a rest here now, where he's not standing up into those rope ladders at all. He's just sitting in his harness.
Grayson, you're watching this with us, right?
Yes.
You see the police officer above now has just extended a line of some sort and is probably trying to persuade him to attach. What is that?
Yeah, and so what it looks like he's doing is if those officers in the window can just get him to clip a carabiner into his harness, then they can hoist him right into the window without much danger. The real question is whether he would willingly take that carabiner and clip it into himself and end his run.
All right, Grayson, we thank you very much. An expert with climbing there. We appreciate it. And we're going to stay tuned here as you're watching those officers getting very close, hoping that he will hook on. He's been doing this for almost, I'd say, just over 3 hours now. We've been watching this all unfold. We have Ray Vieta there on the ground. So as this maybe comes to a close, let's see what Ray has to say.
Natalie, Clearly you can see what's going on right now. There is a hook that's being lowered down, but I was just talking to police sources on the ground who tell me he has not been responsive. He has not been working with them at all in any way, sense, or fashion. There is a harness there that they're trying to lower down to him. That's that silver hook that you see. They're trying to get him onto that harness and bring him back in. From what these sources are telling me, he has indicated he wants to have a conversation with Donald Trump and that he is pro-Trump. And that's his whole reason for doing this, is what we're being told. Sources telling us that they are looking at that video on YouTube that we've shown and believe that to be him. And they're trying to get to him, but they tell us he has not been responsive in this effort at all. Perhaps that might be changing as he scales his way up closer towards the 21st floor. That is where police are right now, looking out that window, trying to give him that hook, trying to give him that harness to get him safely into the building. They are working out of the 21st floor. They also have a scaffolding unit on the side of the building, on the south side of the building, trying to get to him that way. But again, it does not look like he's taking that hook right now. Seems to be in his reach, but he is not going for it. And again, we're being told he is not being responsive. He's chatted, he's indicated some things to them, but he has not been responsive as far as giving into to their efforts of surrendering. And you can see that hook is basically right in his grasp. He could just reach for it, and he's not doing that as he continues to climb up the building. He's roughly between the 20th and 21st floor because police are working out of the 21st floor. That's the window they've knocked out, and they've knocked it out from that corner basically. So they've got two windows knocked out as they try to get to him. And instead of going towards that, he's working his way around the side of the building. And you can see that hook, that harness right in his right. He could easily grab it, but he's not going for it. He's continuing to climb, and it looks like he's making his way closer towards the corner of the building. That scaffolding unit you see alongside the building is stationary. It hasn't moved in the last 20 to 30 minutes, but we know it moved down closer to get closer to him, but he's not working his way any closer to police. You can see now the hook is there. Police are aiming it at him, and he is not grabbing for it whatsoever. It looks like he's just going to continue his process of using that suction cup. We know that at some point he reached for something in his backpack. It's unclear what that was, but he's using a rope right now. You can see he's using some sort. So perhaps but it just doesn't look like he's going for that hook. Were you going to say something, Natalie?
Yeah, and Ray, for folks just
It
joining
looks like
us,
they're giving him some directions.
we thought he was going to
It
grab
looks like
for
they're giving him some directions right now. We thought he was going to go grab for it, but what we're seeing from those windows is police motioning to him. What we can tell from just body language is that they're directing him to get that hook possibly into a harness that he's wearing, but it doesn't look like he's going for it. Because again, from what we can see on the ground, that hook and police are very close to where he is right now. And if folks are just joining us, this all started around 3:40 when police first got the call of a man climbing up Trump Tower. And ever since then, this is the saga that's unfolded. He's continued to work his way up. Police tried to get to him on the 16th floor. They're now trying to get to him on the 21st floor of Trump Tower. For that reason, 56th Street between 5th and Madison is blocked off at this hour as they work to try to get to him. They've set up two inflatables just in case. We know they have hundreds of feet of rope. We know they're trying to get him into a harness and trying to get him back into the 21st floor. That's why they've knocked out the glass of those windows. But it does not look like he's listening or taking their orders.
Yeah,
and what
Ray.
looked like he was working his way into the hook, it does not look like that's happening.
Yeah, Ray, this is the
Let's see,
closest we've seen
it
him
looks-
get to these
it looks
officers
like-
this whole time. And for folks, again, as you said, who are just joining us, he's ignoring them. He's continued to ignore them really all after 3 hours. And you were told by your sources they do not plan to go out and get him or grab him at any point, right? Explain that a little bit.
Correct. We were told from police, just told me they did not want to extricate him. They didn't want to forcibly grab him. Instead, they want to talk sense into him. They want to talk him into getting in through one of those windows. We also know that he has not been responsive to police. A source told me I would not characterize the way he's talked to us as responsive, but he has made some indications that he's pro-Trump and that he wants to have a conversation with Donald Trump. There's a YouTube video online that explains his motivation, and police believe that person in the video is him. That person that's climbing that tower right now is the same person in that video. They put out a hook, harness of some sort to try to get him into that harness and get him through that window, but it does not look like he's going for those efforts. In fact, it looks like he's moving away from them. But yes, this is the gotten to him. They did knock out some glass on the 16th floor. They knocked out some panels of a vent to try to get to him there. We saw police poking their heads through those panels of that vent, trying to get to him that way. Instead, he just moved around the building, moved around the corner. And now it looks like they've basically cornered him. They're so close to each other. This is the closest we've seen. There's a hook there, and you can see that it's basically glass. All he has to do is grab it, but it doesn't look like he's doing that. He's continuing to diligently use those suction cups to work his way up that tower. There's also a scaffolding unit almost right next to him on the south side of the building. That has not moved in the last 30 minutes. You see that they are as close to him at this point. And it looks like, they are really within arm of him from what we can see on the ground. You can see police reaching to him, possibly to hook him onto some sort of harness. An officer almost hanging out, and here's some people yell. Folks here on the ground, of course, are trying to keep crowd control. There are a lot more officers here on the ground trying to keep folks away from the street. They blocked off 56th Street between 5th Avenue and Madison as they try to get to him. But you can see that this is the closest they've been to him all evening, all afternoon, and he is working his way up towards the 21st floor. That's where the glass has been taken out of. That's the floor police are working out of, is the 21st floor. We're told they've basically set up a command post up there. That's where they've focused their efforts to get to him. And you can see he's working up the glass that has not been broken in. So police are trying to get to him that way, but it does not look reaching for him, because at this point it looks like he's in arm's length away from them, that he could even work his way into that window, but it doesn't look like he's doing that. He's still working his way up alongside the window, alongside the building, in the glass that's not been taken out yet on the 21st floor. So police again telling us that he's not being responsive. He hasn't really cooperated with them to try to get into the building. But you can see police have their arms they're grabbing him. They're grabbing him right now. You can see they've grabbed him, and he is now inside the building. You can see several police officers grabbing him, trying to get him off those suction cups. We're hearing some cheering down on the ground. Police have safely taken the man grabbed him from the outside of the building, took him inside, and you can see it appears he's stuck on one of the suction cups, because that's what it looks like they're reaching for. But what you just saw unfold right now on your screen is the NYPD ESU, Emergency Services Unit, grabbing a man who had been climbing Trump Tower since around 3:40 this afternoon. He worked his way up to roughly the 21st floor, and that is where police took action. They took him in, they grabbed him, and they now have him in custody. They're trying to work off the suction cup from the building to safely have him fully in, but they have him now in their custody. Taking out 21st floor, and I can